the rehabilitation of criminals. Death by lethal injection is highly unreliable. Since 1900, the United States has gassed, shot, hung, electrocuted, or lethally injected over 9,000 people. Many of these executions have been botched. Each time a new way to administer the death penalty is created, the government claims the past ways were barbaric. Botched executions are fairly common, which includes inmates staying awake while their heart is stopped and gurgling in pain. They are paralyzed, but they can feel everything. Capital punishment is also ineffective. There is an average of 238 months, or just under 20 years, between sentencing and execution for inmates on death row. There have been many cases where the time between sentencing and execution reached 30 years or more, the longest being 40 years. Capital punishment is also extremely expensive. Death penalty cases had a median cost of $1.26 million. Non-death penalty cases had a median cost of $740,000. There's also no credible evidence that the death penalty deters crime more effectively than long terms of imprisonment. States with death penalty laws do not have lower crime rates than states without them. States that have abolished capital punishment show no significant changes in either crime or murder rates. Also, there have been many cases where the convicted criminal asked to be executed over life in prison.
Now that we've talked about why capital punishment is becoming more obsolete in American society, we need to go over why imprisonment is not that much better of an option in a lot of situations. The US locks up more people per capita than any other nation at the rate of 698 per 100,000 residents, which adds up to about 2.3 million people in thousands of prisons and correctional facilities, which is demonstrated by this graph. 1 in 7 of these prisoners are serving life in prison, and if we look at this graph, only 26% of these people are actually convicted of a crime. And of these people that are convicted of a crime, the majority of them are in jail for minor crimes that could be fixed by rehabilitation, and these people could easily be reimbursed back into American society. On top of that, imprisonment just isn't sustainable. The US spends more than $80 billion a year to keep these 2.3 million people behind bars. This large number of inmates, many of which are behind bars for minor crimes like petty theft or trespassing or substance abuse, is not sustainable for America's people or economy. And the prison system spends immense amount of money that could be used to help these people and create a working force out of them instead.
Rehabilitation. After spending years in prison, prisoners need to be able to contribute back into society. Findings published in Psychological Science show that inmates who feel guilt about specific behaviors are more likely to stay out of jail later on. 77% of criminals arrested and released without rehab are arrested again within 5 years of their release. Benefits of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation has many benefits to criminals by giving them a chance to start over and make better choices and even get job opportunities. Rehabilitation can also help society by reducing recidivism and lowering incarceration costs. This poll shows that most Americans believe criminals should be in rehab learning how to be a better person than sitting in prison. Why should we opt for rehab? Not only does rehab have potential to save thousands of dollars in criminal sentencing, but it gives them the ability to re-enter life. The death penalty violates the prisoner's right to life and costs millions. Imprisonment isn't much better. So instead of the death penalty and overcrowding prison systems, particularly with minor offenders and addicts or shoplifters, we should instead help them and give them the opportunity to better themselves.